Great. So, hello, really warm welcome to all of you. My name's Danita, and I'm here in the room with Tara today. And I'm going to be leading a yoga class in a couple of minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So, do get yourself comfortable, unroll your mat, maybe sit on it. You'll probably need a couple of blocks. We're going to start with some meditation. Um, yeah, so do say hello in the chat box if you're practicing with us live. Be very, very nice to know who's practicing and where you're practicing. Um, this is my second time actually teaching in the Shrine Room. At the moment, we're running a yoga intensive. There's probably still time to join actually. So if you'd like to, do go onto our website and you can join our yoga intensive that we're running. We're running at 7:30 till 9 a.m. Monday to Friday this week, and also at 5:15 to 6:15. And it's very, very exciting because we're running our intensive on Zoom, which means I can watch you practice. So yeah, so do make yourselves comfortable. We're going to start off with a little bit of meditation in a moment, but I'll just wait for a few minutes until it's 12 noon by my clock, and then I'll say something about energy, which is our theme today. So, are people watching?
Yes.
Yeah? Good, good. Yeah, so do say hello if you're watching. It'd be nice to know who we're practicing alongside today.
So we've got Sophie Holdstock says, hi, Danita, Julia from Haringey.
Hi, Sophie. Sophie, very, very nice to have you. Um, Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely actually, like just to develop a little community of us practicing. Yeah, yeah.
Gurdeep says they're here from Port Talbot.
Ah, nice. Ah, that's quite far away. I wonder what the weather's like in Port Talbot. Here in London, it's like forecast to rain all day, basically. Yeah, yeah, good.
Michelle says hi.
Oh, hi, Michelle. Oh, really, really miss you, Michelle.
And Mark says, hello from Stepney.
Hi, Mark. Hi, Mark. Wonder if your dog's practicing with you.
Gurdeep has said it's miserable and raining.
Oh, well, at least it's not really super sunny here either, so we're all in it together. Good, good, good. Yeah. So I make it 12 o'clock, and let's make a start now. So yeah, I just wanted to say a few things about energy and how we're going to work with energy in our practice today. So, one of the things I wanted to say about energy, well, the main point I want to make is that for most of us, most of the time, we will need to expend a little bit of energy to gain energy. I think sometimes we can have an idea that when we're tired or when we're depressed or we're very worried about something or anxious about something, that we need to calm down, we need to rest, and we need to relax. And oftentimes we can think that what might help us relax is like binging on Netflix or just sort of like slobbing out on the sofa with a can of beer. And actually, probably for most of us, that won't be enough. That kind of relaxation where you kind of check out and go a bit unconscious won't actually be nourishing. And actually, counterintuitively, at that moment in time, probably what's in our best interest is to do something that is going to actually be relaxing or actually be nourishing. And by doing that, we sort of start to gather our energy and start to raise it. In the time before the pandemic, when we could still go on public transport, I one of the things that I used to do when I knew I was like completely overworked was to get myself onto the train and go all the way across London to Kew Gardens. And it actually takes quite a lot of effort. If you're living somewhere like Bethnal Green to get to Kew, it's like over an hour on the tube. But just making that effort and getting myself into a situation that's an environment that's beautiful. Kew Gardens is a really, really beautiful place. And it's beautiful in the sunshine, but it's even beautiful on days like this where it's a bit sort of like wet and miserable. There's sort of like hot houses that you can walk in, like art galleries where you can sort of like take shelter and just look at really amazing, really beautiful, natural things. Yeah. And I think that always used to sort of surprise me that it used to take so much energy to relax. But after a day at Q, I would come back feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. I think doing things like going on retreat is the same. So, next week, even if you can't get out of London, we're going to be running our online summer retreat. And, it might take a little bit from you, it'll take a little bit of effort from you to book onto the retreat, to attend all these sessions. But if you make that effort, probably what will happen is that you do feel more energized, more rejuvenated, nourished, and ready to re engage with life. So, for the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be doing a yoga practice that where we're sort of trying to gather our energy and trying to raise our energy. I'll say a little bit more as we go through, but let's start by meditating for a little while. So you might want to sit on your meditation cushions if you have some, or a couple of yoga blocks will work as well, or maybe just some cushions from your sofa. See if you can sit upright with a long back. Maybe have your hands on your thighs or your hands on your knees. Closing your eyes. And let's start by tuning into sound. Tuning into sounds outside the room. Perhaps traffic noises, or if it's raining where you are, you might be able to hear the sound of the rain. And if it's not raining, there might be birds, so listen out for them. Listen out for sounds inside the room. So the whirring of the computer or any other electrical items you have in the room, the hum of the fridge. And then tuning into sounds in your own body. And to do that, you probably need to be quite quiet and quite still. Still enough to hear the sound of your breath. Still enough to hear the sound of your heart beating or any digestion noises. Now listen to the sounds of your mind. Noticing if your mind is quiet or it's noisy, or maybe somewhere in between. Listening out for any sounds in your heart area. of little internal sounds. And then before we draw the meditation to a close, see if you can just take stock of your current energy levels. And some of us will be quite high energy. Rested and nourished from the weekend. And then some of us might be quite low energy, just affected by the gray skies, by the rain. And some of us just simply might not know. And that's okay as well. Okay. So when you're ready, just opening your eyes, let's start to move. So interlacing your fingers, press your palms outwards, tuck your head in. Take a few longer, deeper, slower breaths. Breathe some space between your shoulder blades. And then on your next inhale, reach your arms up, sit up tall. And take a little sideways stretch. So breathing out, stretching to one side. Inhale, coming back to center. Breathing out, stretching the other way, keeping both sides of the spine long. And inhale, coming back to center. Let's come into a twist. So put one hand onto the opposite knee. Sit up tall, look around towards the back of the room. Breathing in, breathing out, lengthening the spine, broadening the rib cage on the inhale. And breathing out. Good. Let's twist the other way. So turning the other way again. As you come into the twist, sit up nice and tall. So have your shoulders squarely over your hips. Breathing in, making space. Breathing out. Breathing in, rib cage expanding. Breathing out. One more breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. Come back to center. So come onto your hands and knees. We're going to continue warming up. Once you're on your hands and knees, we're going to do some cat-cow. So get yourselves into position for that. Spreading your fingers, having your knees under your hips. So you exhale to lift the spine, tuck the head in, tuck the tailbone in. As you inhale, drop the belly, lift the tailbone, lift the chin. So keep going with cat-cow. And then particularly for those of you who weren't quite sure what your energy levels are, sometimes it's quite hard to know when we're sat still in meditation. But once you start doing things like cat-cow, once you start moving with the breath, it can just become a little bit more obvious. I'm really tired, I feel really stiff, and the whole spine feels obstructed. Or actually, there's just like not very much blockage to energy, and energy feels fluid and mobile and zippy. So you might just want to close your eyes as you move through cat-cow and just really notice how you are, taking stock of how you are now physically, how you are now energetically. And how you are mood-wise, yeah? Okay. So let's just all do one more. Quite a big cat-cow, really move to the edges of your mobility. And then when you've done that, tuck your toes under, we'll come into downward dog. So spreading your fingers, nice big hands in downward dog. Again, don't worry too much about your hamstrings, about stretching your legs. I think particularly the first downward dog of the class, you really don't have to worry about your legs. The main thing for the first few downward dogs, I would say, is just making space in the spine. So to do that, you need to engage Uddiyana Bandha. So you lift your belly button up towards the spine. And you move your hips away from your hands. So this movement of hips away from hands just lengthens out and broadens out the spine. Makes a little bit of space in the shoulders. Good. One more breath here. Okay, bring your knees back down. Let's do a little bit of back bending. So see if you can come onto your belly, hands underneath your shoulders, feet a little bit apart, legs long and on the floor, and just come into a baby cobra. So quite a low one. Have your hands underneath your shoulders. See if you can continue to engage Uddiyana Bandha. So you're actively lifting your belly off the ground. Good. And exhale, come all the way down. Stretch your arms out a little bit in front of you, perhaps to the edge of your yoga mat, and straighten your arms. So coming into seal pose. And then again, be active through the front of the body. You're lifting your belly button off the floor. Keep drawing your shoulder blades down, plenty of space between your shoulders and your ears. Remember to breathe, so nice, long, deep breaths here. That will just help warm up the spine. One more breath. And then bending your elbows, hands underneath your shoulders. Let's just come into downward dog again. So downward dog again. So this thing of Uddiyana Bandha, I think, is particularly important. It's not just important in downward dog or, in back bending. Well, it is. But the point I want to make is that I think if you're thinking about energy and strength in yoga, I think Uddiyana Bandha is probably the base of it, the basis of it. So this thing of engaging the belly, engaging the lower abdomen, that's the sort of energy centers where it all sort of starts. Okay, let's come into warrior one. So bring your right foot forwards, left heel comes down. Reach both arms up. Lift the chest, look up between your hands. So thinking about making a big shape in warrior one, bend your right knee. Straighten the back leg and lift your arms up. Lift the chest and the sternum up towards the ceiling so that when you lift your chin, your shoulders can drop down and back. We'll take another breath in warrior one, and then let's come into warrior two. Hands at shoulder level. Look along your right arm. And probably most of you could give yourself a little correction. If you look straight downwards, you want to align your shoulders with your hips. For a lot of people, there's a tendency to want to lean slightly forwards or slightly back in warrior two. And then lift your lower abdomen. Again, engage Uddiyana Bandha. From there, lengthen the arms out to the side, space without strain. Okay, and then bend your knees a little bit more. Let's come into a sideways bend, coming into Parsvakonasana. So looking up towards the ceiling underneath your arm, having a sense of length and space, particularly in the left side of the body. And then coming all the way up. Yeah, so stand easy for a moment. Just want to say something about moving around in yoga postures. So I sort of feel that I sort of go from one side of the debate. Well, I have a debate in my head basically whether or not in yoga postures we should be really, really still and steady, or in yoga postures there's an argument for moving around a little bit and just really finding out what it actually feels like, whether you're actually in the correct alignment. And to do that, you do need to have a little bit of movement, a little bit of flexibility, a sense of exploring different bits, and it's not so static. So I think particularly with looking for energy, I think there can be a sense that actually a little bit of movement can be quite good because often with energy, particularly if you're quite low energy, there can be a sense that there are blockages. So the energy is sort of like depressed and blocked and stuck. And then a little bit of movement can really sort of can clear the blockages and start to let energy rise. So I'd like us to come into Parsvakonasana again. So you stay on the same side, with your right knee bent. Reach your arms back up into the sideways bend. And then we're going to move the arm. And let's just move the arm quite slowly. So the idea is that you're trying to look for anything that's stuck. So make a big circle down across your face, out to the side, back into Parsvakonasana. A little pause here. So you breathe out and breathe in, arriving back in Parsvakonasana. One last one, really slowly. Go a little bit slower than what you think slow might be. And as you come back to Parsvakonasana, just stay there for a few moments, lengthening out the left side as much as you can. And then coming all the way up. Very good, other side. So let's again start with a static Parsvakonasana. So you turn your right foot in, turn the left foot out, bend your left knee quite a lot. And then just see if you can stay still. Yeah. So you bend your left knee quite a lot. Look towards the ceiling underneath your arm. And see if you can lengthen along the right side of the body. Breathe. Make space from the hip to the shoulder. Take another breath here. And come all the way up. Give your knee a little bit of a rest, your thigh a little bit of a rest. And then when you're ready, come back into the position. Once you're there, again, we're just going to move the arm across the face in a big circle quite slowly. So as you breathe out, arm moves across. Make as big a circle as you can. Inhale, take a little pause in Parsvakonasana. Exhale. And inhale. And then with the third one, maybe go a little bit slower. Make as big a circle as you can. And when you arrive in Parsvakonasana, just stay there for a few breaths. Lengthening a little bit more. And then coming up into Warrior Two. So you might need to adjust your stance a little bit. When you come into Parsvakonasana, traditionally you want to have a slightly wider stance, and then the warriors are slightly shorter. Notice what you're doing with your shoulders. See if your shoulders are directly above your hips. Again, engaging your lower abdomen, just making sure Uddiyana Bandha is in operation. Softening your elbows, lengthening your fingers away. One more breath, space without strain. And then let's come into Warrior One. So, just swiveling around to the other side. Lifting the chest, looking up between your hands. So a big shape in Warrior One, lengthen the back leg, and follow the line of the back leg up the spine, across the shoulders, along the arms, and into your fingertips. Okay, take your hands back down to the floor. We're going to step back into Downward Dog. And then in Downward Dog, seeing if you can, again, find space in the spine. But probably also your legs are a little bit warmer than the last time that you did Downward Dog. So you might be able to straighten your legs. Okay. Take a step forwards with your left foot. Come all the way up. We're going to take a couple of forward bends. So taking your hands into reverse prayer. Or if that's quite difficult, you can just put one hand on top of the other, palms facing behind you. And then come into a forward bend. over your left leg. So as you come forward, see if you can align the center of your chest along your left leg. Draw your shoulders away from your ears, drop your head, and keep both legs long and straight. We'll stay here for a couple more breaths, seeing if you can lengthen the back of your left leg. As you come all the way up, swiveling around, you can drop your arms if your arms are getting a little bit tired. And then let's go the other way. So folding forwards, over your right leg this time. Again, find the center of your chest. See if you can align the center of your chest along your right foot, along your right leg. And the legs are long and straight, drawing your shoulders away from your ears. Dropping the back of your head. All right. Coming all the way up. Good. Bring your feet together. So we're going to do Utkatasana. So I want to say a little bit about Utkatasana. So mostly when we sort of teach beginners Utkatasana, one of the things that we often do is just to ask people to have their knees a little bit apart. Sometimes yoga teachers even teach it with a block between the knees and the feet parallel. But actually, once you start getting a little bit familiar with the posture, you wouldn't sort of do it with a block between your knees. In fact, you just have your knees together. Similarly, often when we teach people Utkatasana at the start, we get people to sit there, bottoms back, quite a lot. And that, for most people, necessitates a dropping forwards of the shoulders. So you tend to get something like this shape, yeah? When you get that shape, actually, it does make it quite difficult to then sort of lengthen out the back of your neck and to look up between your hands. So if your shoulders are dropped forwards, when you look between your hands, you tend to get a funny shape in the back of your neck. So with Utkatasana, when you get a little bit more familiar with the posture, you're not a beginner anymore, what you want to do is to start to make the spine quite vertical. So you're stacking your shoulders over your hips as you bend down. And then you can lift the chest so that when you look up between your hands, your shoulders stay down. So we're going to try that. See if you can bend both knees. So have your feet together, bend both knees, squeeze the knees together. Now really think of having the spine upright, yeah, vertical upright, yeah. So you're neither tucking your bottom in or sticking your tailbone out. And then think of your sternum, think of your chest. See if you can lift the chest, lift the sternum up towards the spine, up towards the ceiling, so that your shoulders can drop back as you look up between your hands. Now notice what it is that you're doing with your toes. If your toes are really scrunched together, see if you can relax your toes. Okay, and then straighten your legs. Come into a forward bend, take your feet hip distance apart. Hold on to your elbows, drop your head. And your knees can be soft here. Or if you like a stretch of your hamstrings, you can straighten your legs. Okay, so from here, let's come into Balasana. Take your feet a little bit further apart from each other. Perhaps turn your feet out. Bend your knees, knees going out to the sides, and arms onto the insides of your knees. So with Malasana, see if you can be upright in the spine. One of the things that Malasana does is to stretch out your hips. And there are not that many sort of hip opening postures where your feet are fixed. So this is one thing that you can sort of notice. Notice where it is that you're fixed. Whatever's on the ground would be a fixed position. And what you can do is just to take your elbows out to the sides and sort of press your elbows against your knees. Get a little hip stretch in Malasana. And try not to compromise the length in your spine as you do that. Okay, let's just take one more breath here. And then sit your bottom down, and we'll take another forward bend. So legs out in front of you. First, we'll do a straight leg forward bend. You might be able to catch hold of your ankles with straight legs, or your big toes, or the outsides of your feet. Either's fine, but see if you can keep your legs as straight as possible. For most of us, if you're not very flexible in your hamstrings, so keeping the legs straight will often cause the back to hunch. And forward bends are a bit like that, you know, if you're not particularly flexible. It's often a little trade-off between straight legs or straight back. So in a moment, what we'll do is a bent knee forward bend. So for now, see if you can keep straightening your legs. Don't worry too much about how curled over your spine is. And then just releasing your legs, give them a little shake. Maybe let them flop apart and bend your knees. And then again, you can come into a forward bend. This time with bent knees, legs a little bit floppy. And as you bend your knees, see if you can keep lengthening the spine. And you'll probably find it a little bit easier to lengthen the spine with your knees bent. So see if you can keep your chin moving forwards, your chest moving forwards. Maybe think about where your sit bones are. And as you breathe in, see if you can breathe your rib cage away from your sit bones. We'll just take another breath here. And then inhale, come all the way up. Good. Cross your legs. See if you can take a step back into Chaturanga position. So engaging Uddiyana Bandha and Chaturanga. And try not to look towards your feet. That will probably just cause your chin to drop. So see if you can look a little bit in front of your hands, perhaps the edge of your mat. And then bend your elbows and come all the way down. Let's come back to back bending. So feet on the floor again. This little baby cobra position. Engaging your legs, pointing your toes, engaging your belly, lifting the front of the body up. A little bit off the floor. Elbows are quite bent. And coming all the way down. Take your hands a little bit further back so they're more like waist height. And then see if you can push into an upward dog, knees on the floor. So this time your arms are straight. As with all these sort of forward bends with your chest towards the ground, see if you can draw your shoulders away from your ears. You're drawing your shoulder blades down, and you're lifting up through the crown of your head. And still engaging through the front of the body. That's really good. And exhale, coming all the way down. Push yourselves back onto all fours and come into child's pose, just a little counter posture. So as you stay in child's pose, maybe use child's pose as a little bit of a position to take stock in, just to see how you are. How the energy levels are going. Okay. So, I wanted to come back to something that we've been doing in the classes that I've been teaching, which is side plank. So come back onto your belly, bring your feet together, tuck your toes under. And I just wanted to see if people can come into plank with their elbows on the ground. shoulders above your elbows. So just coming into this position and seeing if you can find your balance. And then from here, turn onto your right elbow and see if you can keep your hips off the floor. And then if you can find your balance, you can extend your left arm. So this is a little modification to side plank. Two modifications. One, you're coming in from chaturanga. And then the other is that you're on your elbow. Takes a little bit of weight out of your wrists. And then you can come back. Maybe come back onto your belly. Give your belly a little rest. And then let's go the other way. So, thinking about Uddiyana Bandha, lifting your belly button up into the spine, and just make sure that your feet are together. And then turn sideways onto your left elbow. Lift your right shoulder, look up towards the ceiling if you can. Otherwise, just have your hand on your waist. Either is fine. So really thinking of lifting from the core, that's really the only way to do it. And just noticing what your shoulders like. Okay, coming back onto plank. Back down onto the ground. And then you might just want to pop your head into your arms and just give your lower back a little shake. Well done. Maybe bend your knees, everyone, and then see if you can windscreen wipe your knees, your feet from side to side. And then when you're ready, you can bring your hands down by your sides, push yourselves up and back into child's pose or into downward dog. Either's fine. So into child's pose. Or if you're feeling energetic, coming into downward dog. If you're in downward dog, it's the last downward dog of the class. So making space in the back, making space in the legs. And then if you're in child's pose, perhaps come into downward dog for a moment. Just going to use downward dog as a transition posture. So when you're ready, you can walk your feet towards your hands, cross your legs, and sit down, lie down. Getting a little bit tangled up with our microphone wire. Hands on each knee. And then let's just circle the knees. So let's circle the knees away from each other and all the way back together. Away from each other and all the way back together. And perhaps do this a little bit more slowly so that you come all the way to the edge of mobility in the hips. So as you take your knees apart, you're taking your knees as far apart as they might go. And from here, we're going to come into Ananda Balasana. So holding onto your ankles or holding onto your feet or your big toes. Take your legs out to the side, feet moving away from each other, bend at the knees for now. And then if you want to, if you find it helpful, you might want to rock from side to side in Ananda Balasana. So the sense that you're pulling onto one leg, one foot, and then pulling on the other foot. Might help the feet move away from each other a little bit. And then if you want to sort of take a different kind of posture, you can also start to straighten out your legs. As you straighten out your legs, see if you can also try not to compensate by curling your back too much. So if you think of your shoulders and your hips as 4 points of a book, you want to have the book fairly flat on the ground. We'll take another breath here. And then we'll bring the feet back together. Arms on the insides of your knees. Knees moving out to the side, away from your shoulders. Again, shoulder blades down on the ground. Maybe tuck your chin in a little bit, have a long neck. And then bring your knees together, feet flat on the floor. We'll do some hip raises, so feet flat on the floor, knees tracking over your ankles. Breathe in to lift your hips up. Breathe out to bring your hips down. So you inhale to lift up and exhale to come down. Let's just all do 3 more. If you want to roll your spine up and roll your spine down, the main way to do that is just to make sure that you're engaged in the front of the body. So it's almost like your lower abdomen, the front of the body, is what lifts things up little by little and bring things down little by little. So breathing in to lift up, breathing out to come down. Just do that a couple more times. Breathing in to lift up, breathing out to come down. And then the last one, we're going to lift and hold. So inhale to lift all the way up. Interlace your fingers underneath your bottom. Lift one shoulder, tuck your shoulder under. Lift the other shoulder, tuck the other shoulder under. Keeping the arms long and straight, pressing the little fingers into the ground. Try not to allow your knees to flop out to the side, so knees still tracking over the ankles. It's a bit like your knees are moving towards the front of the room, away from your head. Keep pressing your feet into the ground, lifting your hips up. And then exhaling, coming all the way down. Good. Hug your knees into the chest. Give your legs a little squeeze. So, taking a big stretch, reach your arms back behind you. Inhale, big stretch. Stretch your fingers, point your toes. Exhale and relax. Breathing in, big stretch. Breathing out and relax. Last one, breathe in, take a big stretch. And breathe out and relax. Good. Bring your hands down by your sides. We're going to settle into a little Shavasana, letting your feet flop apart. Letting all the muscles in your belly and your glutes, everything be soft. You might need to shuffle your shoulders out to the sides and down your back. Palms facing the ceiling. So, Shavasana is a posture to be practiced just like the other postures. And for some of us, Shavasana will be quite difficult because it's difficult to stay still. So notice if you're rubbing your nose or fiddling around with your posture and see if you can stay completely still. Don't give in to restlessness or fidgeting. And then for some of us, the practice of Shavasana is one of staying conscious. So sometimes we get into Shavasana and we immediately go a bit unconscious and want to fall asleep. We sort of miss the fruits of our practice. So Shavasana requires us to be completely still and relaxed, but to continue to engage our mind and engage our heart. And for some of us, we'll just be somewhere in the middle, tacking between falling asleep and worrying about stuff. So just a few more moments here. And then wriggling your fingers, wriggling your toes. Breathing in, opening your eyes, maybe closing them again. Rolling over onto one side. Sitting all the way up. Perhaps sit again on your meditation cushions or your 2 blocks. So I want to do one last thing before we finish, which is this thing of gathering all the energy we've liberated. So once you've gotten yourselves into the position where you can maintain your position, breathe in to reach your arms out to the sides, lengthening the spine. Breathing out, palms face down, fingers pointing towards each other. So inhaling, reaching your arms out, all the way up. Exhale, palms face down. It's a little bit like pressing downwards. So you're gathering all the energy that you've liberated and then integrating through the torso, through the column of your spine. Now that you know the movement, you might just want to close your eyes, breathe in, synchronize the movement with the breath. Breathe out, pressing downwards. One last one. So you breathe in, gather all the energy, all the momentum, everything you've liberated. Breathing out, integrating, collecting, grounding. Hands onto your knees, hands onto the tops of your thighs. Sitting up tall. So just taking a few moments completely still, just to collect yourselves again. And tuning into the effects of your efforts. What does it feel like now? Maybe taking one more in-breath and one more out-breath. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that's the end of our class now. Very, very lovely to have all of you with us, and hopefully see you again soon. Yeah, so just to say about other things that are happening through the London Buddhist Centre. Mainly, I wanted to say that next week we're going to be running a summer retreat, and it starts this Sunday and it goes on for 7 days. Um, there are lots and lots of reasons to do a retreat, including really nourishing yourselves or to raise energy or to just really have a bit more momentum in your practice, doing it with a whole bunch of other people. We're expecting over 1,000 people on our online summer retreat. Doing things with other people can just sort of, I don't know, put some wind in our sails, some wind in the sails of our practice. Yeah, so I just really want to encourage you to do the summer retreat, to book onto the summer retreat. You can find the details on our website. We've been in touch with some journalists who are hoping to help us promote the summer retreat, and they said to us like, "Oh yeah, it's like a spiritual staycation, the most spiritual staycation that people can do this summer." And it's interesting. I don't think it's like particularly language that we would use here at the London Buddhist Centre, but I think it's definitely true. It would be the most spiritual staycation that you could do this summer. So that's one thing, book onto the summer retreat. The other thing to say is, yeah, we run here on an economy of generosity, and it does take quite a lot to keep the London Buddhist Centre running. Without having our classes, without having our retreats, actually, we stand to lose about £10,000 a month. So it really, really does help us if people donate to us for the classes that we put online, such as these yoga classes, such as these evening classes. And I would say that every little helps. Even if all you can give is £1, £5, £10 a week. That's great. It really, really makes a difference. And particularly if you can give regularly, because it just allows us to plan what to do in the future. I think particularly if you value a place like a Buddhist center, you value what we do, I just really encourage you to support us. It makes a big difference to, feel like you're supporting something and being part of a practice community rather than just consuming a yoga class on a YouTube channel. Yeah. So that's all I have to say. It's very, very nice to practice with you and see you again soon. Bye for now.